For hundreds of years, people have been dressing up their clothing and accessories with simple embellishments. One of my favorites is any kind of embroidery. Whether it is done on the machine or by hand, embroideries add personality wherever they appear. If you are just getting started with an embroidery machine, or even if you're an old embroidery pro, it always helps to review the basics. Then every project is on the best dress list. Welcome to my sewing room. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I'm so happy to have as my guest today my very dear friend Kay Brooks. Kay is with R&K Distributing. She is head of product development and education. Kay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't wait to see all the magic you have for our viewers.
Well, today I did bring a little magic, but I also brought the basics. I brought Embroidery 101, what I feel is the most important things that everyone needs to have in their embroidery area whenever they're getting started. So sometimes we get a little too advanced, sometimes we need to jump back to just what we need just to get going. So today I want to talk about some tools that you're going to have surrounding you, but I also want to talk about the 5 most important stabilizers that you need to have immediately in your embroidery area. Those stabilizers are water-soluble topping, tearaway that's non-fusible, non-sticky, but you do also need to have a fusible tearaway, you need to have a fusible cutaway, and then you need your sticky tearaway. So very, very important to have those 5 products. And also I want to share with you a few tools that we're going to recommend to have in your area. But also the lighting, you need to have really good lighting whenever you're getting started. A few things that I like to have are very good snips. You want to have curved tip snips right at your fingertips, very sharp, very good for trimming all of those threads. You want to have pre-wound bobbins, and start with a new bobbin whenever you're getting ready to embroider. Don't start with a half-wound bobbin, because then you're going to have to remove the frame from the machine, and that may mess up your embroidery, and then you get frustrated, and we don't want that. So start with a fully wound bobbin. And I love these little guys. This is called a micro pin. These are completely washable, and they're a permanent marker, but they're super fine tips. So if you do have any mistakes, you can actually go around the outside of the embroidery design in case you had a little bit of a jump stitch. So I call that my cheater pin. It's a really, really great way to fix mistakes. So first, let's get started talking about stabilizers, which is why I'm here. So most important, let's talk about sticky stabilizer. Notice I say sticky stabilizer, not a sticky paper. Very, very important to use a good quality sticky stabilizer. And why you need this in your basic 5 is because sometimes we're embroidering small things like this baby bib that is hard to get into an embroidery frame. Now here I have hooped one piece of our sticky stabilizer, and the way this works, you're going to hoop with a paper side up. You're going to take a straight pin, which I have here, and you just simply score the paper, not too deep. Then you're going to use the pin to lift the edge, which I've got a little piece started here, and pull it back, and that exposes your sticky surface so you can stick your garment or a small item down to it. Very, very wonderful. But I do always recommend to hoop. You want to save your sticky stabilizer for hard to hoop items. Very, very important. Now, another hard to hoop item would be a towel, like I have here. Now, a towel is very bulky and sometimes hard to get into the frame, but with a sticky stabilizer, that makes it easy to stick it down too. But a towel is also where we're going to talk about toppings. Very important to use a topping. Now, if any of you have ever taken any of my classes, you'll know I preach toppings. They go on everything I embroider. Very, very important. There's water-soluble toppings, there's heat-removable toppings, but always make sure to use a topping. Now, I'm going to remove this towel. But I want to show the difference on this towel I've embroidered, the difference between using a topping and not. Huge difference, very, very noticeable with and without. So I'm going to remove this board, and we're going to very quickly move into tearaways. Now, I'm also very adamant about fusibles. Fusibles make your life so much easier. They keep the garment from stretching and pulling out of shape. Now, this is a woven cotton. right here, and it does stretch. I like to show that. And denim, another woven that does stretch. Very, very beautiful fabrics that we love to stitch with, but they do definitely stitch out of shape. When you fuse the tearaway onto the back, it stops it from stretching. Very, very important for whenever you're hooping to keep your embroidery looking very, very nice. Now I'm going to pull this over here so I can show the difference between a fusible and a non-fusible. Look at the difference in the stitching.
Wrinkled, aren't they?
Same stabilizer, fusible, non-fusible.
Real difference.
Simple, simple fix, but the fusible makes all of our lives so much easier. And same thing is true when we get into the cutaways. When you're stitching on knit, very important to use a cutaway so your stitches can elongate and look beautiful in the knit fabric. If you use a tearaway on a knit fabric, you're going to get short chopped stitches. They're not going to look right. It's going to perforate the knit, and you're not going to have gorgeous stitching. So again, you're going to fuse your cutaway onto your knit. Here you can see I've used 2 layers. This is very, very soft, beautiful for baby garments, very, very easy to use. And again, the fusible makes your life easier by not allowing the knit to stretch out of shape while you're hooping and while your machine is stitching.
Okay, these are just wonderful ideas, and it really does make a difference, I think, because nobody wants crumply embroidery.
No, no. And when you have the right products at your fingertips, when we're all stitching at midnight, it's important to have what you need right there so you can get the results that you want.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank
and
you.
Now we have some sewing inspirations for you. Okay, I'm just intrigued by this beautiful metallic thread. Let's talk a little bit about embroidery on metallic thread.
Well, and it sometimes is a scary situation for some embroiderers to start with metallic thread, but it's actually quite simple to work with. This happens to be a polyester core metallic thread, so it's very soft and flexible. But some tricks to working with metallic threads: use a metallic needle and sit the metallic spool behind the sewing machine and feed it up and over, and you're home free. It's easy to definitely work with. And you can see here, this is just simple sheeting fabric, and we've added the metallic threads, and look what a dramatic effect you've gotten.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful.
This, I love this little trick.
Simple.
Oh
Just
my
simple.
goodness. You've embroidered a little on elastic.
Just plain elastic. You stick that down to your sticky stabilizer and stitch out the names of your stabilizers on there so you can always keep them organized. So you'll know fusible or non-fusible, sticky or not. Just simple.
Now this is almost unbelievable here, okay? It looks like
Stitching on
plywood,
wood.
but it isn't.
I know. And believe it or not, very simple. This is balsa wood. Very important to remember that name, but it's just like sewing on denim. You, again, just stick it down to your sticky stabilizer, use a size 12 needle, and stitch away.
Sewing on wood.
And I've just glued it down to this box.
And you glue it down to the box.
Yes.
This is so
We
cute.
always need gifts from men, so this is a great guy gift.
You know, embroidery on wood. That's
Yes,
a new one.
yes, absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful gift card.
Very simple. Once again, this is a great way to get familiar with your embroidery machine. Stitch out some simple things on plain fabric and just insert them into these little blank cards that you can pick up at scrapbook stores.
And always, always a favorite is a dishcloth.
Yeah, just for a new bride or whatever, for a shower gift. Insert dramatic fabrics, this is just plain netting, into a design instead of stitching out with thread, and you've got a scrubby on your dish rag.
Oh, a scrubby. Now that's a wonderful idea. Okay, thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful ideas.
Thank you.
And now we have a little piece, a little segment for you called And So On. I'm so happy to have as my guest today, Jeff Williams. Jeff is president of Presencia Threads USA. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha.
Oh, you brought some fascinating things. This is a beautiful, beautiful wall hanging. And the interesting thing, this is straight stitching. And the interesting thing is we've used 16 pearl cotton.
Correct.
And an 18 needle and 50 weight bobbin thread.
Correct.
For this beautiful, beautiful look. Now that's straight stitching, and now we have some free motion work, and I think we've used the same number 16 pearl cotton.
Right, and the number 18 needle and a 50 weight cotton in the bobbin.
Absolutely beautiful. Now I think we've moved to some rayon threads here, haven't we?
Right. This is a machine embroidery 2-ply rayon, 35 weight, and it stitches in very densely, and it's also bleach fast, which is important if you're doing a table runner, anything around food. It's important to have bleach fast properties because it'll hold up in a machine washing.
Yeah, if you spill coffee on it, you can bleach
Exactly.
it. And then we have this last beautiful hanging, again with the same rayon threads, which
Correct.
are bleach fast.
Correct.
And I think you have some other interesting tips to teach us about threads
Just
today.
wanted to show the typical cotton sewing quilting thread put-ups, a typical 100-meter, 500 and 600-meter spools, and about a 4,000-yard cone. In the properties with cotton, you want to look for are the highest quality Egyptian cotton that you can afford. You typically want to look for the Giza 70-75 grade of Egyptian cotton, and for your general sewing and quilting, you want a very tightly twisted 3-ply thread that gives the thread strength and makes it very, like in a quilt, it will blend in to your fabric and not show very much, as when constructing a quilt or constructing a garment where you don't want the thread to show, you want a very tightly twisted thread.
You know what my mother always said, never sew anything without the finest thread available, because you're going to be sorry immediately, and especially with a quilt 100 years later, we want it to hold up.
Exactly. And other things, other fun things are metallic threads. You can have a lot of fun with the metallic threads and just different fibers, and put them together with cottons, with rayons, with metallics, and play with them and have fun. But buy the highest quality that you can afford.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Jeff, thank you so much for being here and sharing us the knowledge about the threads and showing these beautiful projects. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
And thank you for having me.
And now we have some construction tips for you. I'm so happy to have as my guest today, Kari Mecca. Kari is the owner and designer of Carry Me Away. She is the author of 4 books. She is a frequent contributor to So Beautiful magazine and is a teacher for many years at the Martha Pullen School of Art Fashion. Kari, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Martha.
Oh, these adorable heirloom cargo pants. Oh, Kari, this beautiful like handkerchief linen, blue handkerchief linen. This is adorable. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, we have lace points coming down from the waistband, and we've added a little button for the detail.
And this pocket. Oh my
We have
goodness,
a
let me
flap-
move my hand.
Flapped pocket with lace edging. It's a standard cargo pocket with a little pleat in the center also, and then we've edged it with lace to give it that sweet little heirloom look.
And look at the little on the pants.
Drawstring hem, and I'm going to show you how to do that first.
Oh, fun. Okay, Kari, go ahead.
Okay, so we've got the bottom of our pant is here, and we've folded up our hem, and we're going to fold up a 1/4 inch and then 1 inch. Now we're going to make our creases, and then we'll fold this back out flat. We're going to make our lace points. Now I've marked a dot on my fabric, and I'm going to find the center of my lace. Whoops. We'll pin the point and fold down, and then fold down.
Well, that looks easy enough.
It is really very easy. From there, we're going to go ahead and just use our edge stitching foot, and we're going to sew around all the edges to secure that in place. Now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to mark my buttonholes. So I've folded this back out flat because I don't want to sew through both layers. You need a single layer of fabric. Marked my 1/2 inch buttonhole, and I'm just going to sew those right down the center of the lace. Now from there, we're going to take our pre-made spaghetti bias, and we're going to run that through, I'm sorry, we have to make our hem first, so we have a casing to run our spaghetti in. So go ahead, refold your hem and straight stitch along both edges. From that point, we can run our spaghetti into our ties, and then we have our ends come out so that we'll have a cute bow for a finish.
And just pull the little pants leg up with that spaghetti.
With just barely a little bit of fullness. Now we have our pockets, and so for our pockets we're going to cut our blocks of fabric. Now this has an inverted pleat in the pocket, so we'll fold our pocket in half, and we're going to sew down part way and then just a small amount at the bottom. Now, once you open that back up, you'll get a little pleat in the back. We're going to press that flat so that you get an inverted pleat, and we're going to go ahead and crease it all the way down the center of the pocket. Then we're going to round our corners so we have our pocket shape. Now we also have a pocket flap, but we don't need a pleat in our pocket flap. So we're just going to go ahead and round our corners there. And here we are with our pocket, and we're going to go ahead and sew around. Now on our base pocket, once we've pleated it, we're actually going to go ahead and let's add some lace detail to that as well. So we'll measure from our pleat over. This looks like about 3/4 of an inch. Go ahead and straight stitch that down. Now I use a lot of glue basting. I have lots of trims I like to use, and I like to use them in unusual ways. This way you don't ever have to use pins, and I sew over pins anyway, and it's bad for your machine. So if we use our glue baste it, everything's great. So once we have our lace on there, then we would sew our pockets. Now we're going to leave an opening, and then we'll go ahead and turn those right side out. And from there we can take any kind of a narrow lace edging. You know, heirloom lace, there's just so many to pick from. We'll do a lace point, just like we did for our drawstring hem. We're going to do that on our flap. Sew it down. Now we're going to leave extra. We need a 1/2 inch of lace here for our buttonholes. We don't actually make a buttonhole for our flap. We just use the hole in the lace, the 2 pieces of lace. We're going to lace shape around, and here we do this also on our pocket. Now we're going to leave this extend your lace so that you can turn it under to finish. We're actually going to sew around our pocket flap, but not our pocket. What we're going to do is we're going to place it on our pant on the side seam and pin it in place, and we're going to actually fold this under, and then from there we just sew it in place. So we'll just sew along the flap part and then around the edges, and we have our finished pocket. And then you'll mark your button and sew it onto the pocket, and then we're finished.
Kari, that is absolutely adorable. I just
Thank
think
you.
that's so
Thank
cute. Heirloom cargo pants.
Heirloom cargo pants.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And now we have some hand embroidery to share with you. I'm so happy to have as my guest today my very dear friend Wendy Schoen. Wendy is the designer of Petite Crochet Patterns. She's the author of 5 books. She's a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine and a teacher at the Martha Pullen School of Art Fashion in Huntsville. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. I have a stitch that I know you're going to love.
You know I do.
If you look at this little tea cozy, there's a close-up of this little flower. It's pink with the yellow centers. That's called a spoke flower. And would you believe it only takes 4 stitches to make that flower?
No.
Well,
let's
here
see.
I'm going to
Let's
show
see.
you how to do it. Okay, so here's what I have. I've drawn 2 circles. One is large and one is small. It's sort of a donut shape. Now, what I've done that is unusual is I've taken 2 straight pins. I've put them on the inside circle. See how they're dividing the section into 4 equal sections? So this is very important. All right, so now I want to tie on. Don't count that stitch, but let's go ahead and tie on. And we're going to use the inside of the donut as our tie-on place. Remember, if you're going to cover up the area, you might as well use it for tie-on and off, okay? So 2 back stitches ought to do the trick. I want to put them very close to the center because that's where I want to actually emerge. I'm going to bring the needle out on the inside edge of the small circle beside the first pin point. Now, I'm going to take the thread beneath the tip of the pins, the edges of the pins, and I'm just going to bring it around. Oops, you want to make sure you don't catch it on the tip of the pin. And just twist it, or twirl it rather, until the stitches align inside the open area. Okay, so notice I haven't taken any stitches yet. Okay, so let me show you the next progression. Now, this one shows the wraps completed. I could actually put another wrap, but it really doesn't need it. You want to make sure that all your wraps are one beside the other and they're not jumbled up. That way it makes it look a little neater. Now, this is what I want to do. I want to bring the needle down on the outer edge, or at the end of the spiral, the edge of the spiral rather. Bring it down to the back. Oops, that is something you definitely want to be careful of. Come up in the center right next to the pin and take your first stitch across. So we're going across here. Then to the next compass point, or whatever you want to use, analogy you'd like to use, and tack down there and here, and then on the final one, this is the 4th stitch. I promised you 4 stitches, and that's what I'm giving you. Okay, so now you can remove the pins, and you want to make sure that you tack them down before you remove the pins, because you'll lose your stitches if you don't. I'm going to tie off now with 2 back stitches in the center of the spiral. This part is going to be the center of the flower, the little yellow knots you saw, and they'll cover up those 2 little stitches, so I don't have to worry about anything. And I'm just going to cut the end off right here. Those 2 little stitches will hold it in place, no problem. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the next hoop. Okay, so in this particular frame, you see that my coil is nice and neat. I've tacked down the 4 corners, and now I just want to pop in a few little French knots. I'll go over that very quickly with you. You want to hold the thread straight, bring it around 1 time, counterclockwise rather, insert it into the fabric forward or above, tighten, and then bring it to the back. And you can go ahead and put in as few or as many of those stitches as you like. This is the easiest flower you're ever going to make. Very quick, almost no skill involved, and you can work them up over a fraction of the time it would take to make a regular flower. And it's awfully pretty too.
Wendy, I love that stitch. It was one of the first stitches I learned when I started crewel embroidery many, many years ago. It's beautiful to see it done in the beautiful floss and in the heirloom tiny, because mine were very large. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And now I'd like to share a piece from my vintage collection with you. So many of the pieces that I love so much in the white clothes have tucks. This dress is just a perfect example of beautiful tucks. Of course, the beautiful neckline, and then the about 1/4 inch folded tucks with a beautiful piece of lace mitered and edging. Then more tucks, but we have a beautiful sleeve. You can see the tucks come from the top of the sleeve down to the bottom. And this is a very interesting treatment. There is a column of lace which comes up into a point, and it is outlined on the edge with entredeaux. Okay, let's take this tuck theme on down. Beautiful lace, entredeaux on each side, 3 tucks in the middle, more entredeaux and lace, and then release tucks. Can you see the release tucks that go all the way across? It really holds in the fullness of the dress. That beautiful column of lace, which is so pretty, is repeated again on the skirt. This time it's a long column of lace that comes over, entredeaux on each side, and more beautiful folded tucks, and then a very traditional pretty little ruffle with 3 tucks, this time very skinny tucks on the bottom. The dress is really pretty. You know what? I really think that these buttons are the original buttons, which is very unusual, but I just kind of believe they are. The back has equally beautiful details with the tucks and the lace. Tucks, as a matter of fact, the back is exactly like the front. And then the release tucks, and then all the way around the skirt. This dress is absolutely a tucking masterpiece, and just every seam has entredeaux in between it. Thank you so much for coming to join me today. I'd like to invite you back next time.